Hello, welcome. God bless you. We can look at another woman from Christian history, or from history, who was Christian. We're going to look at Mary Lyon, and that's how I'm going to pronounce her name, even though it looks like Lyon. But she is, in fact, American. She was American. I'm not going to embarrass myself by trying to do the accent in American. Okay, let's cut the chit-chat and get on with the stuffs. Okay, so her significant dates of life and death were 1797 to 1849. And whilst at school, she once stood at the front of the class and quoted, or paraphrased actually, a verse that she knew by heart. And it's this: "My father and mother forsook me, but the Lord took me up." And while she wasn't adverse to separation, we'll see that in a moment, but she wasn't just repeating lines that she'd memorized from Psalm 27. She had a personal experience of this. And after her mother was widowed, after her father passed away, Mary's mother actually remarried and moved several towns away from Mary with her younger children, and left Mary behind on 100-acre farmland that was the family's in Buckland, Massachusetts. And she was to manage her older brother's household while she remained there. So similarly to lots of the other Christian women that I've spoken about, her talents were seemingly endless. She cooked on an open hearth. She baked bread. She spun wool. She dyed wool. She wove coverlets. She sewed clothing, embroidered linens. She preserved vegetables. She preserved fruits. She churned butter. She made jam. She made soap. She made cheese. She made candles. She washed clothing, swept the floors, cured the meat. All her wages were $1 silver per week. And at 13, she'd been left, in effect, on her own to fend for herself. Worse than this, possibly, worse than the loneliness, worse than the separation, the abandonment issues that maybe were brought up for her, was the fact that the heaviness of her duties, her domestic responsibilities, forced her to abandon what had given her previously the most joy, and that was namely education or school. So fortunately, when her older brother married, she was freed from these domestic roles. And therefore, in 1814, when she was aged just 17, she was offered her first teaching job at a schoolhouse in Buckland that consisted of one room, basically. She needed no formal training. It wasn't required. And her reputation as a brilliant student earlier, in her life was enough to qualify her for the job. She was paid less than she had been, actually, on the homestead. She was paid 75 cents plus board per week, which was, it was much, much less than a male teacher. Her male equivalent would receive $10 to $12 a month. And she was obviously on about $3 a month. And that was customary. She lived an equal number of days, as was the custom, in each of the pupils' homes. And in this case, that required that she moved every 5 days. She didn't find it particularly easy teaching, and she didn't find it particularly enjoyable either, despite her own passion for education and learning. She struggled with the disciplinary side of interacting with her students, especially on rainy days when the older boys who were unruly were temporarily released from their work outdoors and returned, therefore, to the classroom. And during the first term, which I imagine was pretty long for her, she decided and resolved more than once that she would never teach again once her contract was complete. However, by the time the next term came around, she had changed her mind. So not only did she continue teaching, but she also decided, against the wishes of her family, to pursue her own higher education, as learning was more of her passion. So her mother's new husband who still controlled her finances, finally agreed to let her use her father's inheritance to enroll at Byfield Seminary, which was north of Boston. He was so incensed, I guess, that he, even though he released the finances, he charged Mary by the mile for use of his horse in order to make the 3-day journey to the school. What a prince. And at the seminary at Byfield, she was particularly inspired by the headmaster of that establishment, who was the Reverend Joseph Emerson. And his religious convictions composed really the foundations of his teaching. And it was under his tutelage that her vision of Christ-centered higher education for women first began to germinate and to take shape. Mary Lyon kindled at the possibility of dedicating her life to the service of God in a way that made continuing demands on her power to learn and to reflect, as well as on her eagerness to serve. That was a quote from her biographer, Elizabeth Alden Green. So, Mary became known as an advocate for the education of women, as you may have seen from the title of the vid, because, I guess, or bolstered by her ever-growing reputation as an advocate for the education of women and the gifted nature of her teaching abilities. Firstly, though, primarily she desired to serve God, and she viewed her work as an educator in the light of her calling. So in 1834, she took a pretty radical step in her career, and she left Ipswich Female Seminary, where she'd been working as a teacher and principal, with a close friend of hers who was founder of Ipswich and whose name was Zilpah Polly Grant. She did this in order to focus her efforts entirely on raising money to fund a new institution with the sole express purpose of higher education for women. And it wasn't particularly the best time to ask for donations to raise money, because the United States was in a pretty well-known and severe economic depression. However, she was undeterred and relentless. She didn't have the backing of the church financially. She didn't have even a single wealthy patron. She had zero support at that time. And instead, what she did was she wrote hundreds of personalized fundraising letters. She drafted newspaper articles, advertisements outlining her vision for higher education for women. And she visited schools as far away as Detroit. Now, bearing in mind, it took her 3 days on a horse, charged by the hour, to get to the first place. So it wasn't just the case of, hopping on a plane kind of thing. But she visited these schools to research the curriculum and, administrative practices, basically. She single-handedly persuaded prominent men to fund her enterprise and created a board of trustees, which was made up of what she termed benevolent gentlemen. She didn't underestimate the power of these benefactors, these men. And the plans, she wrote to Zilpah, should not seem to originate with us, but with benevolent gentlemen, acknowledging that many good men will fear the effect on society of so much female influence and what they will call female greatness. In 1836, she published an article was published in the Boston Recorder. And in this article, she made an impassioned bid for support from the church, because the church had long since funded colleges for men. That was pretty standard. Who can survey the ground for the last 20 years and count up the thousands and tens of thousands of dollars which have been generously raised in behalf of these institutions and not be filled with gratitude to him, i.e. God? But while we thus rejoice in what had been done, we cannot but inquire with painful emotions Why has not the hand of public beneficence been equally extended toward the higher institutions of the other sex? Despite her vigorous and impassioned pleas, she did not get the support of the church. She did, however, raise more than $15,000 in 3 years, and that was a lot of money, obviously, in those days. Much of those $15,000 was the result of her just tireless door knocking, door to door solicitation, really, throughout Western Massachusetts and beyond, actually. She spread out the whole subject, talking so fast that her hearers could hardly put in a word, anticipating every objection before it was uttered, and finally appealing to their individual humanity and benevolence. And this was observed by a friend who accompanied Mary on many of these home visits. She uttered no falsehood. She poured out truth. She offered arguments to make out her case, and last and best of all, she carried the will of nearly every person with whom she laboured, e.g., she persuaded them. So whilst there were, a handful of large donations of maybe $1,000 or more, most of the contributions were far more modest, $5, $10. And this was like hard-earned money at a time, like I said, that was economically depressed. And from Mary's point of view, fundraising was painfully slow. But when she did despair, because she did, it wasn't often, but she did, she put her trust in God. When all human help and human wisdom fail, she wrote to Zilpah in 1835, and all knowledge of future events as connected with present causes and present action seems entirely cut off, how sweet it is to go to one who knows all from the beginning to the end, to one who can direct our very thoughts and who can take us individually by the hand and lead us in a plain path. I think that's lovely. I really do. So she mapped out the vision for her school during these years, these slow fundraising years. And it was a vision like none other at that time. Most women's educational institutions were available only to the rich or affluent. She intended her school to be affordable and to be accessible to women of less exuberant means, modest means, in fact. She devoted her mission not to the higher or poorer classes, as she explained in another letter to Zilpah, but to the middle class, which she described as the mainsprings and the main wheels which are to move the world. And she felt an affinity with the middle class because, as a farmer's daughter, it was the class into which, she was born, and that she belonged, and that she felt called to support. So within her vision, within her plan, she decided or aimed to keep tuition costs low, $60 a year. And she wished to do this by instituting a policy that was unique and would require the students to perform all of the domestic chores, to which she was no stranger, certainly, from washing, ironing, cleaning, and food preparation, dishwashing, gardening, maintaining the fires, etc. So, 1837 now, November 8th, 80 young women, some of whom had travelled days by horse. That's, sorry if you're a gentleman, it's not as comfortable as it may sound for a lady, even side saddle. Anyway, they reached South Hadley, Massachusetts, and they walked through the doors, these 80 young ladies. And it was almost finished when they did so. Mount Holyoke Female Seminary, and this is where they began their higher education. The new students were instructed to bring their own bedding, 2 spoons, an atlas, a dictionary, and a Bible. So there was the furniture was pretty sparse due to the constraints of finances, and construction crews also were, in and out and just messing up the place, basically putting the finishing touches on the building as the women were arriving. And at that time in the United States, there were 120 colleges for men, and Mount Holyoke was the first institution of higher education for women. Although it was not officially decreed a college by the Massachusetts state legislature until 1888. So that's like 51 quick years it took them to pull their finger out. So she insisted that the school not be named in honour of her, and it took the name of a nearby mountain peak, and its motto was from Psalm 144, that our daughters may be as cornerstones polished after the similitude of a palace. Oh, I love it. Anyhow, from the earliest times that she had germinated this vision, these plans, she had always considered the creation of the school to be the holy work of the Lord. How often have I endeavoured to consecrate all the parts, all the interests which God has given me in this contemplated institution, most sacredly and solemnly to his service. And that was what she wrote to Zilpa in 1835. And how often have I endeavoured to pray that everyone who had anything to do in building up this institution may never call out his own. Oh, that everyone who puts a finger to the work by giving the smallest contribution of time, of money, or of influence might feel that this is a work of solemn consecration, a work to be reviewed by the light of eternity. So, once the doors were open, she ensured single-handedly, basically, that Mount Holyoke provided a sound spiritual foundation for all of its students, as well as the higher educational purposes to which it was designed. So each dormitory was equipped with two teensy little private alcoves so that roommates could have like some personal space, not safe space, just some personal space for prayer and devotions. Virtually every student at Mount Holyoke during her lifetime, during Mary's lifetime, attended 2 Sunday services at the village church and studied and recited passages from scripture on weekends. They also joined social prayer circles based on how they had classified themselves on entrance to the institution. As a church member, as having no hope of salvation, maybe, or as somewhere in between. So the students and the teachers prayed regularly for missionaries, and the first Monday in January was dedicated to praying for the conversion of the world. Go big or go home kind of thing. So Mary and her staff, the teachers, prayed for the conversion of each student twice per day, every day. Half-hour periods were set aside for private prayer and meditation on top of this. So despite the emphasis that she displayed and held for, strong spiritual foundations, she struggled with a sense of inadequacy personally as a religious advisor. That's easily done, believe me. She asked friends of hers to pray that God would direct and inspire her within her religious instruction, and she frequently felt overwhelmed and lost within this role that had been kind of thrust upon her, I guess. Clearly, however, the students at Mount Holyoke were impacted greatly by her spiritual leadership, and that was inside and outside of the school. The class notes that were taken by student Eliza Hubble, who attended Mount Holyoke from 1840 to 1844, say this: religion is fitted to make us better in every situation in life. Our common duties will be more perfectly discharged if we are under the control of the Holy Spirit's influence. She did not wish us to be like soapstone, which crumbles as it is rubbed, but like gold, which shines brighter the more it is used. That's nice. So Mary Lyon was not a women's rights activist. No, she just wasn't in that respect, in the same way that her contemporaries were, Elizabeth Cady Stanton or Lucretia Mott, for example. She didn't campaign for women's rights to vote. There's no indication that she attended or, even referred to the 1848 Women's Rights Convention in Seneca Falls in the United States. However, her advice to her students spoke volumes to her unwavering conviction and confidence in women's abilities. Be willing to do anything and anywhere, she urged the young women. Be not hasty to decide that you have no physical or mental strength. and no faith or hope. So, as her biographer notes, Mary didn't waste time trying to prove the intellectual ability of the sexes as equal. She took it for granted. She emphasised how her female students should use their intelligence and their abilities, not for pleasure necessarily and not for themselves, but to carry out God's work in the world. Everyone we see seems to desire something of honour or of ease, pleasure, or improvement that will make something more of himself, she acknowledged. We ought to turn the current of feeling towards others, and it will branch out into 1,000 streams. How lovely is that? How much happier you would be to live in 1,000 beside yourself rather than to live in yourself alone. Oh, I love it. I love it a lot. Okay, so now, like skipping forward today, at least certainly in America, more women than men are enrolled in colleges and universities across the states. And this reality would have just been unimaginable to most, if not all, 19th century Americans, possibly with the exception of Mary. She had urged her students, go where no one else will go, do what no one else will do. And she did exactly that herself for 52 years, in fact, the span of her life. In 1837, 80 young women made history when they crossed that threshold of the single brick building. And today, which is more than 175 years later, 2,200 women from 48 states and nearly 70 countries enroll annually to study at Mount Holyoke, which is one of the most prestigious colleges in America. And Mary's, God-given vision flowed initially into 80 young women. And now that we're almost 200 years hence, like it has branched out into 1,000 streams, which is what she'd hoped for. So I'm jolly pleased for her and for all of the ladies who are educated who wouldn't have been. So that's Mary Lyon. And this is okay. All right. Anyway, if anyone's got any questions, like broadly related, yeah, I will endeavour to answer them. Otherwise, I don't know, just say hello. Thank you, Dragon. That's very kind of you. God bless you. Armour of God, let me check. Yeah, I think I am. I'm not sure if there's a bit of a delay with the chat because I saw that it was stilted as I was reading, but watch him, Martin. Hey up. Thank you. Any comments, questions? Does anyone vehemently disagree with the education that we're in? Lol. I just guessed who would say yes, but anyhow, yeah. Any points, comments, questions, stuffs? Otherwise, I shall be off ski, as it were. Don't all rush me, because you know how I get overwhelmed by stuff. No, maybe. Oh, I shouldn't say it. I say it every time. Maybe I'll do it for him later. I don't know. I'm rather tired today. Right now, Armour of God. All right, Cherokee, lovey. Armour of God, where should I put them? What's your answer, obviously? And what would you have me speak on, sir? I'd have 2 waffles at the minute. I was awake till ridiculous o'clock, and then I couldn't sleep. The cheek of it. Like by the time the morning came, all the sunlight and the birds were just not having it, having a small party right outside my window. But I can waffle. I am a bit of a I need a subject, and I don't feel like 2 hours is really going to happen. Not that I wouldn't do like anything for my admins, but no. Oh, Cherokee. I did that a while back. There was the Great Bible of 15 20, is it? That's 16th century. So I guess it would be the almost Great Bible of 14. I don't know. The priesthood, the clergy read the Latin Vulgate in the church. Yes, the Vulgate and the Latin Vulgate and Jerome's Vulgate, but not many laymen were able to read it, and I don't find that it's a particularly accurate translation myself. Yes, I did, Martin. Yes, I did. It was all right. Yes, the Jubilee celebrations. It's funny just going around London, seeing how some places are really fully on board and other places you just couldn't really tell. But yeah, I did. I accidentally walked past in the area where I grew up, and it was lovely seeing everybody and all the bunting. I love a bit of bunting. And I did hear the Lambeth Walk being played live. I may have shouted "oi" at some point, as is the law. Martin, you'll know that because you're English. Yeah, it was good. It was good. I may have had 2 small drinks, just for her Madge. But yeah, it was good. Please God, I'll get to church Sunday. Martin, I don't know if it's not feeling it. It's just not giving one chisel, as it were. Just zero acknowledgement. I was getting a little bit aggy. Like, just, I don't know. I think whether you're a royalist or not, like, come on. It's a long time, 70 years. It's longer than I've ever been on the planet, longer than most of us have been here, maybe longer than any of us will get. She's still grafting. She's 96, Thorvald. Come on. You know what I mean? So if it wasn't for her children, I mean, she'd be laughing. Oh, I hope not, Cherokee. I don't think it is, but I thought you would. I thought of you. You should just stop fighting it and come and live over here with me immediately. She is. She's a lovely. Well, I don't know her personally, but she looks lovely on money. The more money you have, the lovelier she seems, I guess, if you're looking at it. You should be. You are. You're an honorary English lady. There's a couple of honorary English people in the chat, but some of them take it as a challenge, as a dare, to practice their Dick Van Dyke impressions. But yeah, excellent. Just come over, mate. Just stop fighting it. Just stop being silly. Just come on. You come and stay with me. Come for a holiday. Just make sure I'm here because I might be off on holiday again. But yeah, look at me again. Like, oh, life's so tough. I have to go away again. But it is nice coming home. But it is nice being away as well. It's just nice to be alive, I reckon. Exactly. Right. Anyone else can jump in at any time. Don't all feel that Cherokee and I's personal conversation is deterring you. Martin, what do you reckon, mate? Working till 96 from your teenage years and hardly a day off, and your kids turn out to be that bunch of monsters. Just for that alone. Like, I feel that she's genuine. You know, like when she does the Christmas speech and that, everyone else's nanny's asleep by then anyway. Like, so at least she's staying awake. But also, it's not for me to say, but I never really got the sense that she's just putting on having a faith. Like, I feel like she's genuine as the head of the church, obviously. I don't mind her at all. When I was young and a bit confused politically, I may have said a few unchoice things about the monarchy, but whatever. Don't bother me because I'm not a socialist. So I just let them, they can get on with their stuff. I'll get on with my stuff. Everyone's a winner, as it were. No questions, comments, doodahs, because I'll just be off ski. Hi, Your Highness. Hello. We were just speaking about someone with a very similar name to you. She has put the hours in, the decades. I feel like she's longer than Victoria now. Victoria was, 1837 to 1901-ish? That rings a bit of a bell. It's easier when you live somewhere else, Cherokee, I reckon. Yeah. Yeah. Armor of God. If you want me, well, give me a topic, sir. Give me a topic, or hold your nose, as we say in England. You can do it. Come on, you can do it. I'm rooting for you, Armor of God. Think of something 105 minutes-y. How about fruit? Vegetables. Baz, that wasn't because you just entered the chat. Sorry, I said it and I looked and you were there. Yeah. Yeah, I'll still be waffling at that point, Baz, if Armour of God has his way. Bless his little cotton socks, if he has cotton socks. Okay. Look, Armour of God's all right with a chat, but he can't defend it. He can't back it up, unfortunately. It's a damning indictment of that spanner. Shocking. Cherokee is good for a subject every now and again, but the last time she gave me one, I did do about an hour and 45 minutes. It was truth, if I remember rightly. Not that I know of, Martin. That's a jolly good question. Let me check on my... If anyone's going to do it, Baz, it should be God. I think he is the one for the job when it comes to saving coins. No, I don't remember that. I don't remember it, Comment Warrior. I like the real one. We had enough trouble. Was it that? Yeah, the proms. They were all screaming about safe spaces and colonialism. I was like, oh. I like symphony orchestras, and I like the national anthem, and I like Rule Britannia, and I like God Save the Queen. What else? Quran. Didn't they do Gold? Wasn't that a tune? What would you like to know about the Quran? Where's my copy? Oh yeah, I don't care. He won't though, Baz. He won't save it one bit. It is a knockoff New Testament, I guess. It is plagiarized and in verse, like within the Quran, Allah says, if you did not sin, I would destroy you utterly, thereby marking out Jesus as sinless, as like to be destroyed. And then somewhat like schizophrenically, he doesn't destroy him. He doesn't even let him die, even though he says, I will cause you to die. And even though Isa, who's pretending to be Jesus at the time, says, blessed is the day I die and I'm raised again to life. Sounds a bit plagiarized. Yeah, Satan is basically the savior because he causes you to sin, as it were. And therefore he's on the side of Big Al, as I like to call him sometimes. It's a bit Qurani. Loads of different versions. Decided to stick the dots in and all that, like it's a couple of 100 years after it had been burned, basically. Yes, they certainly can, Comment Warrior. Hold your horses a second. Chin, chin. Yes, they can. Jesus, his first recorded miracle was to create wine. The Bible says, do not become a drinker of water only, but take some wine for your ailments. Drunkenness is where you may be getting a little bit like a thingamajig. Thingamajig is the technical term. Yeah, drunkenness is like, don't do that, shiz. But drinking alcohol is fine. Oh, go on. Oh, go on. Okay, I'm not going to do Mrs. Dora impersonation because I don't have any tea with me or any cake. Sorry, Jordan, but you can rewind it after. I don't know why I went Wiltshire. Just don't know anymore. Very tired. That's what I'm going with. Very tired. Yeah, so alcohol's absolutely fine. Comment Warrior. Please do knock yourself out, as it were. And it's cheaper where you are as well. So all the more reason to have a beer to celebrate. That's what I say. Especially on the Jubilee weekend. Got a sniff. Sorry. There you go. It's all over and done with now. Yes, Martin Ellen. Antichrist in nature, in delivery, in application. Not the capital A Antichrist particularly, but definitely the small A variety. So, any more questions about Christianity? Because the Quran. What else? Or the Quran. I don't mind. I've got a load of contradictions. Maybe one of my next videos should be. Yeah. So I have to do Christian persecution, obviously, because I promised Jesus. But I also will schedule in some Islamic polemics because surely, has no one noticed it's literally on the floor, like finitoed. Well, that would be some doing, Baz. I mean, she's still grafting. She'd be 106, wouldn't she? But yeah, I've got no strong desire for her to exit stage left, as it were, because the alternatives are pretty distressing or alarming. Right, any more, and then I will be off ski because I almost did a snazzy little 30-minute vid. Shizzle. I got sidetracked. Oh my god. Dastardly plans. Yeah, maybe I'll do something later, but don't hold me to it. I may do something later. It just may be nothing to do with YouTube. Maybe housework. Psh, lol. Only kidding. Well, a little bit. Okay, either my chat is frozen or your fingers are all horribly disfigured. No. That's all right, Your Highness. Any book other than this, any gospel other than this, any Christ other than this is new. Like, literally, that's paraphrasing heavily. But I feel like it's in, I don't know what book of the Bible it's in, but it's in there. No counterfeit Christs, no new gospels, no adding to the words of this prophecy, which would include adding a whole new book that's making out to be from Yahweh, which isn't from Yahweh. I'm going to sneeze, I reckon, shortly. Just wobble my camera, as one does. Okay, yeah, it's about that time. Yeah, no, she needs. Imagine that. My nan's 90. She could just about be bothered to get out of bed at the minute. The Queen's just up and about, walking, sticking out. All right, fair enough. She might have a little gin and tonic. Don't make her a bad girl. You know what I mean? I think she's all right. I don't mind her at all. She always mentions Africa at Christmas and praying for the Christians there and that. I know, Baz, he has got funny. I wish I could. I'm using that camera, but I can't. So if I could access his messages, he did tell me what we're going to discuss in our upcoming video. It was breaking, or it was a new development at the time, which was a couple of weeks ago because I went away and I had some funeral stuff to blah, blah, blah. I didn't really have time to fully give him my full attention. So we deferred it somewhat to be decided, like to be confirmed, not confirmed, to be scheduled. That's the word. And I remember saying, that would be good because then it would have given it time to evolve. So whatever it is, it was new. He does a lot of new stuff, Jay. He's just come back from Nicaragua, where he gets about in his dinner hour. I mean, he don't just sit on his laurels, the boy. But he always, he's always got something new. I love Jay. He's very kind. Like in my own life, like I've had a few little, I don't know what you want to call them, times when I haven't been as jubilant as I am this Jubilee weekend, and he's just the most sweet, like he's very thoughtful. I don't think he will, Your Highness. I think it's potentially going to skip to William, which isn't the end of the world. I don't want to bring the tone of the video down. How can we have someone on the throne who was once like desirous of being a tampon? I'm just not sure that it really fits in with the I don't know, the public relations bit. I mean, obviously, if he was a king in the olden days, that's nothing. He is first in line, but he could decide to like cede his place in the queue, as it were. Also, he's a divorcee, so how's he going to be head of the Church of England? Yada yada yada. I reckon it's the tampon one for me. I really do. Like, always watch what you say on the phone, I guess. He probably does. He just hasn't got the. Yeah, I don't feel that he would be celebrated as much as William would. And that's potentially because of his connection to Diana Williams as opposed to Charles's. But I'm fair. I mean, he does a lot for the environment. I'm not sure how much needs to be done for the environment, but that's not the point. He does it anyway. Talks to plants. What? He wasn't, was he? I'm not going to read it out, Martin, but once the comments are processed, you'll be able to see. I mean, I don't know. I feel like potentially once you get to the upper echelons, it's just like Nonцeville all the way. I'm not really sure. We tried to have a historic sex abuse, child abuse commission set up in the UK, and it took us just the most embarrassing amount of time to try to find anyone who didn't have a conflict of interest or know someone who knew someone who knew. They were just kept recusing themselves. We had to send that to Australia in the end. Like, you're like, yo, like, hello. It's awful. It is awful. Right, I have to, yeah, I would. Cherokee, definitely. I have to go because I can't blow my nose as much as I need to at the moment. I don't want to, I do. Disgusting. I don't think they would have the stomach for it right now, Baz, to be fair. I love a spelling correction. Autocorrect. I get pretty tired of its shirt also, as it were. Ducking autocorrect, as I like to call it. No way, Martin. Is that publicly available? I don't know. Never heard that one. Never heard it. I just feel like maybe Savile supported Liverpool. But I wouldn't say it near JC necessarily. Yeah, Cherokee. What's his name? What is that guy's name? The one who's this absolute spit out of his mouth, you mean? The spitting image. Major someone. Hewitt. Can't think of his other name. Something Hewitt. Oh, well, Martin, there you go then. Case closed. I do apologise for casting aspersions on your YouTube derived truth. Yes, Captain James Hewitt or Lieutenant. He probably got a promotion. That was around about the time that Fergie was having her toes sucked, wasn't it? Or that was when I read the mainstream. Did pass a few minutes. And the crossword. I used to like the crossword when there was real life papers. Thank you, Dragon. It's going to be destroyed by fire, Your Highness. That's the one. In the 70s, they were touting and promoting global cooling. They've always, if you notice, I've got a brilliant, all right, I've got a pen. I do this to myself all the time. Or someone can remind me, I'll stick it in my own comment section. No, someone reminds me about the environment, like groupthink. Yeah, I've got a really good document on it. But yeah, they had global cooling. If you notice, it's always 10 to 15 year scenarios. So they managed to, propagandize and pressure and extract money, which is the aim, and to curtail people's freedoms, etc. in the meantime. And then the 15 years roll by, the polar bears still ain't got like sunburn or anything. They're still floating about on maybe smaller polar ice caps, but it just goes the 15 years and then they go, oh, no, did I say cooling? Sorry, I meant warming. And then that goes past and then they go, oh, did I say warming? I meant climate change, which for anyone who doesn't know happens every year 4 times minimum, depending on where you live. In England, it can happen 4 times in a day. But yeah, gets hot, gets colder. The wind comes around a bit more. It changes the climate. That's what it does. Hi, Built for Speed 101. You're right. Anyway, anyone who listens to Bill Nye the Science Guy needs to get out more. Needs to get a life. That's what I feel. His interview with Tucker Carlson. I don't normally promote other stuff or political stuff, but please, for me, Tucker Carlson versus Bill Nye. The comedy gold, the absolute. Oh, I'm gonna watch it as soon as I get off this stream. I might even post a link to it, but then people start crying their eyeballs out because now Tucker's like, same as Ricky Gervais. Now he's literally Hitler. So many clones of Hitler running around, and yet no Holocausts. Meanwhile, the Marxists have taken over the asylum. No, Rory, I don't. I mean, I do technically. I can go and okay, I've got one, but no. Last time I watched it was for the football, only for the football. That's it, really. No, I don't miss it either. You can just buy or rent films if you wanted to on the internet. I didn't say just stream them where you find them. How dare you? But yeah, he is. Martin, there used to be a channel. I'd love to find it again. I can't remember what it was in the days when I didn't have an account with YouTube. But some genius of comedy had got clips of Tucker with these, that nutty Kathy, whatever her name is, and all the different woke professors and all that. And he made it basically Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat. Just along the bottom, as Tucker would win a point, like their little power bar would go down, like when you're doing the arcade games. How old am I? Please. But yeah, with the sound effects and everything, finish him, that kind of thing. It's just hilarious. I used to love that. There's one guy I can see him and I'm like, oh, what a melt. What an absolute melon of a man. Oh, a man. I'll probably get done for hate speech. But yeah, it's outrageous. It is, isn't it, Your Highness? It doesn't, as Morrissey says, who is also alt-right, if you listen to the mainstream, it's designed to frighten you. That's all it is. He said, stop watching the news. And you should. And the rest of it, you can find it online anyway. Like this, it's not to say I don't watch shows. I did have a few years of not doing that even. But I got sucked in again. I think it may have been Game of Thrones. But yeah, there's been some very good shows that I've watched. If anyone wants any recommendations, you can ask me in the comment section because I'm not actually promoting them. But might as well. Once you've got all your responsibilities and your Jesus stuff done. While away. For midnight hours, as it were. Exactly, Your Highness. It is programming, and it is. I know it's quite sexy though, Cherry, in some pretty sadistic ways. But I am what we like to call over here a grown up. So if you are under the age of consent, please do ask your parents for watching Game of Thrones. But yeah, gosh, I forgot all about that. That was ages ago. Time goes so quickly. It's not even. It would be frightening if it wasn't for Jesus. Oh my gosh, I usually do read the books, Cherokee, for things that I love, and then when they're like the adaptations don't, like Terry Pratchett, for example, is, I can't tell you how much I love that man, or I love that man, but he's passed away. His writing, I couldn't recommend him highly enough if I tried his Discord series. I may have to start reading some of them, like onlineiness. I couldn't do the voices justice and everything, but then when they made them, even though it was like very good actors, it's never as good as your imagination. But yeah, there are some one-liners in those books that I used to walk down the street reading, crying, laughing, bump into things on occasion, like just giggle fest. Who's still alive, age 93? Have I missed something? It's definitely not Pratchett, because I remember him passing away. Oh, another. I think Baz, I reckon out of the 70s TV presenters in England, it may only have been Morph, who was not a paedophile. So it seems like and he was made of plasticine. It's just bad. It's bad. I mean, at 93, I don't suppose he's, getting about much. Thank you, Your Highness. Sounds like a jolly good use of your time, sir. However, now would be a time to tell you, and mean it this time, that I am. Sorry, I've just answered the voices in my head that say you ain't going to do that. I am going to start some apologetics, polemics, or theology. Sorry, my phone's beeping. Classes, lessons, lectures, some things. It'll probably be members only, or it may be for Patreon people, or it may maybe I'll do some like taster sessions. I don't know what you call them. Taster. Yeah. And then we're exactly right. So start scribbling. Get your ideas down, kid, of anything you want to cover. Maybe if I can twist their arm and flutter my eyelashes enough, maybe I'll try and get some guest. Bob is all right when it comes to textual criticism. We've done that before. So yeah, that would be all right. Baz, please have mercy. I've got a funeral to get through Monday. Please, Jesus, I don't have any more for a little while because it's getting a bit boring, like in a not disrespectful way. Yeah, what I need to do is take this absolute like a stalwart of technology, put it to a piece of papyrus, as it were, and write out a list of all the stuff I've got to do. But I get scared to even do that because it is a big, long list. But I promise I'm not doing a shanty or anything of just, you know what I mean? I don't really feel like I've got the Apocrypha. I read it anyway. It doesn't, I'm not one of those ardent, like, burn it. I don't think there are any of those people about, but yeah, I'm not that against it at all, really. Just not as a, yeah. In fact, the Anglican Church is, yeah, it says read it, just don't base your doctrine on it. And you don't actually need to, Baz, because I don't feel like I've ever come against a glaring contradiction, although I haven't read it all. But I would say the vast majority of it is replicated somewhere else within the Protestant Bible. So doctrinally, do you know what I mean? There's not much missing if you have it or you don't have it, although it is beautiful in places. I like second Esdras. Yeah, Ezra. Anyhow, on that, sorry, Armour of God. Look, Armour of God is gone. He said waffle for 2 hours, Kate, and then he just ducked out. Just cut the internet, cut the lights, just closed his curtains. He was like, right, that's me, I'm done. So I feel like I might do the same, although I don't have any curtains, so I won't be able to draw them unless I use a pen and just draw them onto the window. No, not the Hebrew account. I'm talking about the New Testament. That's the one tiny little difference, I guess, with like biblical Christian. I don't know. Like we don't we need all of the scripture. It's all useful for proof and teaching, etc. It's all Holy Spirit inspired, and yet we are not beholden to the 10 Commandments at all. I don't know why they're in the Catholic. What do you call it? The I can't think what you call it. The thing that gets read out before the communion. I'm just not. You know what I mean? Even like Ray Comfort, I'm like, it's a brilliant exemplifier of how we transgress the law, but we've only got 2 laws. Ivan, you're always eating, making me hungry as well. I don't know, Baz, is the answer. I tried to go to sleep at 5 a.m. and then had insomnia, and I travelled quite a few thousand miles just last week. So I just don't know. I don't know. When you say where does it come from, I mean, do we know which is first? I'm not going to get into it because I don't know. No, that was Malk with Mindy, Baz. I'm talking about Molf and Chaz, the little brown and the little white Tony Hart. Heartbeat. No. I don't know. Heart attack. No. Stop, Kay. Okay. I'm going to take my own advice and stop. I press the first button. So anybody with a strong desire to say cheerio or God bless her Madge and all that, have at it. Otherwise, I shall... that's what you say, Raz. That old chestnut. We will discuss it, I promise, at some stage. I promised it on like live. I just promised it. I do. I have every intention. It's just scheduling, my darling. Okay, see you later, Rob. God bless you, lovey. And all my admins, thank you ever so much for being lovely human beings, as well as like a dab hand with the old fingers, as I like to call them, keyboards. phone screens. She's waffling again. I've pressed the button. I'm actually waffling again. So anyone else whose name I can't remember from the chat, she's all. Baz, comment warrior, Fudge, Rory, Ivan, oh my God, Your Highness. Thank you, lovey. Built for Speed 101. Shoot, there was someone whose name I didn't recognise, but I'm sure they're lovely anyway, because that's not like an indicator of whether you're lovely or not. Can't move my chat up because I pressed the first button. Okay, waffle over and out. Armour got his wish. I at least waffled, but I do like Nutella and chocolate on it. So, chocolate ice cream even. Shut up, Kay. Right. I try not to, Baz. Try to cut down because of the joy of the fruits of the Holy Spirit. But still, no. There is a place for sadness. And I will certainly experience it on Monday. But, you know, what can you do? Thank you, Your Highness. All right, I'll see you all. Yes, we do. I'm not going to say it out loud, Cherokee, but yeah, we do. Everyone knows it's true, secretly. Right. Definitely, Baz, but there's always more on the horizon. Okay. John, where you been, kid? I was killing time till you got here. But now I have to go. I knew there was someone whose name, like, I hadn't seen, but I was thinking. Anyway, sorry, John, babes, but I do have to just press this button before I start talking utter twaddle. Let's carry on. Anyway, the stuff about Mary Lyon wasn't twaddle, so rewind it if you missed the beginning. And lots of love, and I'll see you later. Ciao.